Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyse the Governor-General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office, D'Souza Road, starting at 7 p.m. Come and hear the facts, ask your questions, and share your views because there's lots to talk about. Here's what's trending. The United Progressive Party will break down and analyze the Governor General's throne speech 2026 at a town hall meeting to be held on Thursday, 20th November 2025 at the St. John's Rural South Branch Office.
Also have with our panel tonight Brother George Wenner, caretaker for the constituency of St. Peter. He will be discussing APOA, works and aviation. We have also Brother Alistair Thomas, caretaker for St. John's City West. He'll be discussing lands and housing. We have with us Brother Emmanuel Peters, caretaker for the constituency of St. John's Rural South. He will be discussing agriculture and fisheries. Brother Ashworth Azil, he's the caretaker for St. John's Rural East. He will be discussing education. Sister D. Giselle Isaac. She will be discussing the health in Antigua and Barbuda, and she is the United Progressive Party's chairperson. Brother Jonathan Joseph, Senator and caretaker for the constituency of St. Mary's North. He will be discussing social transformation. Brother Wayne Marsh, the caretaker for the constituency of St. Paul, will be discussing legal affairs, crime and violence, and police operations. Brother Shaku Simister, he will join Brother Marsh on the discussion of this topic. We certainly would like to ask that you share this live feed that is coming to you right now. Let all your friends, family, loved ones, and haters know that we are certainly analyzing what this government is putting on the table. Go into your Facebook page and your YouTube channels and share it with all your contacts so that you can have the benefit of participating in this analysis. It is critical that all citizens hold the government of Antigua and Barbuda accountable. This is an opportunity for you to get all the facts to be able to responsibly exercise your role as citizens of Antigua and Barbuda. We're going to get started right away by giving an opportunity for each presenter to analyze the aspect of the throne speech that they are responsible for. And we'll be starting to my immediate right with a presentation by Brother Sherfield Bowen.
Thank you very much, hosts. Good night to one and all. Especially good night to the people who sent me here, sent me to the Parliament, the people of St. Philip South. I want you to know that I am honored for the privilege to represent you and that I will do to the best of my ability. I am to talk tonight about tourism as well as finance with respect to the throne speech. Now, Brother Franz explained what is a throne speech. Let me add to what he said, that a throne speech is a government's indication of their legislative agenda for the year. It is telling the public, these are the laws that we intend to put in place based on the policies that we have developed in the cabinet. And so today, when you listen to the throne speech that was presented, you may wonder, what laws are they going to pass in 2026? I had to deep, long and hard and try my best to do some gymnastics to understand what laws they intend to bring to the Parliament in 2026. Now, the first thing I'm going to say about the throne speech today is that it lacks substance. It lacks direction. It does not address the issues and the most important needs of our country. The throne speech should be a clarion call for hope among the people. From whence we can derive some hope from this throne speech? Well, here's how they do it. Throughout the throne speech today, the very short throne speech, each minister of the cabinet had a standing ovation for something. It is a little pat on the back, say, come on guys, you're good. So first they say, oh, Maria Brown, who is facing issues with respect to vehicle gate, they gave her 2 ovations, one for housing and one for works. Then they go along the bench, and each one of the ministers had 2 or 3 minutes of emulation, elevation, and congratulations. But for what? For sweet sounding nothing. Let's take a look. The first part, at paragraph 2, the Governor General said that 25 years ago, and you know what's funny, the first thing that struck me about this, why didn't you take 11 years ago? If you're going to evaluate your tenure in office, why do you need to incorporate the UPP's progress? Why did you need to include that? Because that helps you to look better. Because if they were going to analyze what they have accomplished, they would have begun from 2014. But going back to include UPP's term is how they're going to boost themselves. but I wish they will talk truth. So the Governor General said that at the turn of the century in the year 2000, the GDP was 802 million US dollars. Well, I did some checking. That's not true. Pull up for me there, sir, worldofmeters.info/GDP/Antigua and Barbuda. And let's look at the World Bank data that is on its website. In the year 2000, let me first explain, a GDP grows naturally. But in order to understand GDP and its purchasing power, you have to adjust for inflation. So you have a nominal growth and an inflation-adjusted growth. And the growth you want to look at is the inflation-adjusted growth. Because if you factor in inflation, you understand how the people respond to the growth. If you do not factor in the inflation, then the cost of goods is not factoring in the money, and that is not real. So on the World Bank, it says to me that at the year 2000, the GDP of Antigua and Barbuda was $900,551,852. That was the nominal GDP. When adjusted for inflation, it was $1,195,000. $1,195,000. Come on, let's go again. $1,195,469. You lose it again. Wait, you lose it again. Come on. Okay, let's go again. Don't move it. $1,195,469,164. Anyone can pull that up from the World Bank. Now, that's US dollars. Now, where do you get 800,000 from those two numbers? It's not true. But in order to make the growth look better, they deflate the number that it was in 2000 and inflate what it is in 2025 or 24, so that they see 300% growth. Now, when we look at the truth of it, in 2023, which is the last year that the World Bank have posted on its website, it has the nominal GDP is $2,033,085,185 US dollars. But when you adjust for inflation, it is $1,688,158,622. So if you take 1.1 billion in 2000 to 1.688 billion in 2023, the growth is 500 million. Not 300%, it's a mere 40%. So that's the first lie that they told us, which we can check by going to the numbers. They go on to say that the per capita income of Antigua and Barbuda is $60,000. Now let's review that for a second. The government of Antigua employs about 12,000 people. The labor force of Antigua is about 52,000 people. It means that the government employs about a quarter of the persons in Antigua and Barbuda. Now, on the government-owned payroll, more than 50% of the people on the government payroll earn less than $3,000. So if almost all the people in the government is earning 30-something thousand, tell me where you get the per capita income of $60,000. It would mean that the average salary in Antigua and Barbuda is $5,000 per month. Now, all of Antigua and Barbuda knows that very few people in Antigua work for more than $5,000 a month. So where do we get this $60,000 GDP? And I'll tell you where. Now, the concentration of wealth in Antigua is so lopsided, is so one-sided, that 90% of the people are just barely getting by. But there's a little small percentage of the people, about 153 persons, that earn considerable amount of money. And most of that money they're earning from the government. There are people in Antigua that earns millions. And so when you take that high end and average it among all the average working class people, it carries them up to 60,000. But the real people in Antigua are suffering. They're not making no $5,000 per month. They're not making no $60,000 per year. But some people, by their contracts, are making so many $1 million that it pushes the per capita GDP to that high value. The Tone speech went on to say that we are 53 on the Human Development Index. Surprisingly, that is true. I checked that out at the World Bank website, and indeed, we are that high on the Human Development Index. Now, again, to understand that, the high concentration of that 153 persons will pull everybody up. But this is a country of 100,000 people. So when we have 153 persons making so much money that it carries everybody up, you got to imagine how much money those 153 persons are making, and how poor and how hard it is for the vast masses of the people. So that is how that is explained. Now, when things are good in this budget, this Tone speech, sorry, expect me to say that they're good, because I am not going to be shy to say and congratulate the things that are good. For instance, I endorse and support the University of the West Indies, and that is good. I am very happy to see that Antigua and Barbuda have joined those countries in the Caribbean that have a landed campus. I had the benefit of education, and I would want to see each and every family have a graduate, a university graduate in the home. And so that is good. Increase in the housing stock is honest and it's good. The government itself embarked on a massive housing scheme, and having independence in the unitary family is something that is good, and I endorse that. Now, here when they comes with some truth, they go back to the lie. Antigua and Barbuda has a low crime rate. That is not true. That is a lie. Antigua and Barbuda have been grappling with crime, and most recently have been grappling with many types of crimes, especially fraudulent activities, especially children crime. I practice as a lawyer, and I go to the Child Justice Board and to juvenile court. And when you go there, it's like carnival. It is crazy, and the type of offenses that are alleged against these youngsters, it tells me that society is breaking down. And so for a government to be telling the people that we have a low crime rate and there's nothing happening in crime, that is not true. Availability of jobs in abundance, that is not true. Everybody knows that is not true. I have seen a number of movements of truck. I remember when I was in college and we were studying economics, one of the professors says, one way you know that construction is moving is that when you're driving on the street, you see how many trucks are passing, how many trucks are moving back and forth. And there are some increases in construction. I have seen more trucks on the road than probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So, but there is some increased activity, but there's no such thing as the abundance of job that you can't find people to work. That is not true. So we go on now to the achievements of the past 25 years that it says. Now, one of the lines that the Governor General read, speech written by the Prime Minister and his cabinet and his ministry, is saying that for the first quarter of the century, 25 years, previous government, which is Lester Bird government, Baldwin Spencer government, has had difficulty to overcome the challenges that were too difficult for them. And his government, the Gaston Brown government, took care of those problems. Now, that's a lie. The first problem he said that Lester Bird government could not fix, Baldwin Spencer government could not fix, is land ownership in Barbuda. That is a lie. Other governments choose to allow the people of Barbuda to have a say in how they want their community to operate. Gaston Brown says, I don't care what you say, I am going to change it. That's not a problem that was too difficult to solve. That's an authoritarian way of dealing with the situation, and he did this in order to provide the type of things that you see in Barbuda, and this is the only activity that supports the growth that he talks about is the PLH development in Barbuda. There's nothing wrong with the PLH development, and there's nothing wrong with development in general. But to say that the only person who can, the only administration who could fix the Barbuda problem is the Gaston Brown administration, that is a lie. Come on to say that drought and water shortage has been plaguing previous administration, and the Gaston Brown administration has fixed it. That is a lie.
It's laughable.
That is a lie. Now, what I find interesting is that he said that the Patworks Dam, created in 1970, has the ability for 1 billion gallons of water. Now, I pass the Patworks Dam every day. It has been neglected, left to ruin. The water from the catchment has been diverted to another dam across the way for the benefit of one farm. And that one farm issue is one of the things that praised himself in this throne speech. Because one line in the budget spread said that one farm in Antigua provides so much pigs that all the pork needs of the country is met by this one farm. What he did not say is that the resources of the state has been diverted and has been used and misused and abused to create the wealth for that one farm, which shall remain unnamed. The Barbuda Airport and the roads and seaport of Barbuda are good things. I endorse that. But to say that the only administration who could fix that problem is the Gaston Brown administration is not true. Moving right along, he says storage and repiping of water. Remember, he says that for the 25 years of this century, only one administration could fix these problems. So having that as a preamble, you would expect the things come after to be fixed. And piping and storage of water comes after that, but he say yet to be fixed. So that's a contradiction, and we will wait to see yet to be fixed, because it is not yet fixed. Ownership of foreign banks. Now, this is laughable. The Prime Minister has written in this throne speech that no other administration could fix ownership of foreign banks. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, is only one time that the foreign banks offer themselves to be sold. So how could anybody fix it before? The only time it could be acted upon is when the offer is made. And if the offer is made at one single unitary time, who else had an opportunity to fix it? This is laughable. This is not true. Fact check. Empowerment capitalism. I like that. Now, what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is a theme often repeated by Gaston Brown. It's a theme that they call self-enrichment. And this empowerment capitalism is not for you, people of Freetown. It is not included in the people of Bethesda. It is not for you guys and your constituents. It is for that unit called the cabinet and that 153 persons, friends and cronies that I spoke to earlier. That's what this is. And the growth and all these heavy things that he's talking about, it is concentrated solely in those hands. So it is not for everybody. Interestingly, the Bronco fiasco is included in this empowerment capitalism. And that's what it's about. Because in the last Director of Audit report submitted to the Parliament, I took a page from it, and in that page it says, in the year 2021, 9,500,000 was spent on motor cars without approval. 1 year. 9,500,000 was spent without parliamentary approval, without any approval, on motor cars, and up to this date have not been approved. Now, remember this issue, they said, is $15 million big. If 1 year is $9.5 million, who can convince me that the entire scandal is $15 million? No, you won't be able to convince me of that. Now, what they didn't say in this capitalism empowerment, how is it that so many empowerment is happening, so many things are happening, and all the government buildings, all of them are falling apart? Not one of them they're looking after. The courthouse building falling apart. The government complex falling apart. All the government buildings falling apart. In fact, most of the government units are moving out of the government buildings and going into other buildings. I'm running out of time. Here is something that is good from this throne speech. The government is seeking to address mental health in Antigua and Barbuda. I like that. You know, I normally pass the factory road, and for some time I observe a lady in the bus stop. And it seemed to me that she lived there. And I keep wondering, where is our Department of Social Improvement? Where are the bodies that's supposed to look after this problem? Then I learned that the police removed the lady from the bus stop and took her away. This morning I'm driving to work. The lady is by the stadium on a sheet at the side of the road. Now, if that doesn't bother you, you are not a human. Because my grandmother raised me from days old. And when I see her, I see my grandmother. It's somebody's grandmother. And it pains me. So, doing something for people with mental health issues, I applaud and support the government with respect to that. And I am calling on the powers that be to look into this situation, bring some relief, some needed relief with respect to this and other issues. There are other homeless people in and around Antigua that need help. And I am urging the government to bring some legislation, to set some policy, to do something to fix that issue. The use of lethal force, the Prime Minister says, against fishing boats in the Venezuela area is condemned, and rightfully so. And I am hoping that some leadership is given in that regard with respect to all the other CARICOM communities to bring some assistance to control and to alleviate and to change the direction of the use of violence in our Caribbean Sea. So I definitely endorse the Zone of Peace project. I know I'm run out of time. I wanted to say something about tourism. Oh, the rebuilding of the Parliament building for the family court is a good thing. I support that. But please let's make it happen. I guess I will yield the rest of my time so that I can get another opportunity a little later on. Thank you very much.
Let's thank Brother Sheffield Bowen, Deputy Political Leader for the United Progressive Party and Member of Parliament for St. Philip's South, for his presentation. I would like to move the discussion on now to APUA and Works and Aviation. And for that, we're going to call on Brother George Wenner, the caretaker for St. Peter.
Good evening to one and all. Good evening to the nation, those of you who are listening here and in the diaspora around the world. But most importantly, I want to say good evening to the great constituents of St. Peter. And I, too, in listening to the throne speech this morning, I was taken aback by the emptiness, the hollow sounding, the sweet sounding nothings of the speech delivered by the Governor General. And as it relates to APUA, Antigua Public Utilities Authority, and in the throne speech, on which would have been page 3, the pages are not numbered, but I took the liberty of numbering them under the caption, Drought and Water Shortage. Apart from the preamble, I will go down to the second paragraph where it starts in the second sentence. The Ministry of Public Utilities handed the task of solving the historical shortfall in 2023, set out to increase the amount of potable water available throughout our island country. The APUA has moved our freshwater production from 3.5 million gallons daily in 2014 to more than 11 million gallons of desalinated water today. And that's all that was mentioned basically. Now, yes, I want to say, yes, there's an increase in capacity, increase in production. But over the years, production was never our problem, never our problem. And so for the Prime Minister to state, or for the Governor General to state what is written here, we know, going back in August of 2018, the 18th of August 2017, in a meeting in New York City with the diaspora, the Prime Minister, these were his words in a town hall meeting in New York City, New York. Antigua needs approximately 5.5 million gallons per day, sometimes 6 million gallons per day. We can now produce 7.7 million gallons per day RO water. Feel proud, Antiguans. So we know, going back then, they always produce. But the problem is distribution. Therein lies the problem. That is the Achilles heel. Distribution. Because we can tell you that Minister Yearwood, on the 30th of March, he was then the Minister of Public Utilities Authority. On the 30th of March 2018, Minister Yearwood reported daily leakage of approximately 2 million gallons of potable water due to old pipes. So going back to 2018, we're now in the year of our Lord 2025. That's 7 years hence, and the problem has not been resolved. The problem that the Labour Party came in office in 2014 and they promised to resolve the problem within 14 days. And we're now 11 years? 11 and a half years thereabout later, and the problem is still not resolved. There's still communities in this country who go weeks without water. And though we had a situation where the statutory bodies, particularly, they formed this statutory body called the National Asset Management Company, NAMCO, and all the resources from the other statutory bodies were remitted to NAMCO to undertake projects such as these. And the last thing we heard was that a loan was taken from a local bank to facilitate the repiping and the distribution of water throughout the country. And 7 years later, though there were spurts and stutters in starting, we have not realized that, as I mentioned, there are communities still without water. So capacity is not a problem. So though they're tapping themselves on the back for increasing capacity, there's a challenge in moving the reverse osmosis water in storage at the various RO plants around Antigua and Barbuda to the homes, to the taps in the homes. Now, we had a situation where we were promised by the Gaston Brown administration that when the reverse osmosis plant in Bethesda, when it comes online, the thing of water having 1 shower per day will be a thing of the past. We're yet to realize this. We are indeed yet to realize this. And so we're saying the empty promises, we have been seeing these promises being repeated year on year, year after year, and still nothing. Still, while on APUA, there's a situation wherein APUA is on the writing, and I'm surprised nothing was mentioned of the dredging and the progress of the dredging of the Parham Harbor, because you know at the Crabs Peninsula in St. Peter, the great constituency of St. Peter, without Crabs Peninsula and the power generation at St. Peter, most of water production, and indeed electricity will be out of electricity throughout the island. The new LNG plant, they had this new project where there's a new provider of quote-unquote cleaner energy, where they're using liquefied natural gas, yes. And so they had the situation where they have to dredge the harbor, going to the plant to supply energy, to generate electricity. Now, whereas the Port Authority, another statutory body, is responsible for the clearing of the harbor, the maintenance of the navigational aids, the turning basin, it is APUA who is underwriting the cost of the dredging, not the Port Authority. And the government has contracted a company by the name of Blue Ocean to our research, has connection to someone in high office in the government of Antigua and Barbuda. And we're understanding that APUA is losing $2 million EC per day because of the continued protracted deadline completion of the dredging operation at the Crabs Harbor. So we have had a situation where the dredging went on, they did the sweeping, they removed the soft material. We saw the soft material being deposited in Barnacle Point in an area of interest for a close family member of the Brown administration, expanding the coastline, expanding the territory at Barnacle Point. And we haven't had an explanation from neither APUA, who is underwriting the cost of the dredging, neither the Port Authority, who is responsible for undertaking the dredging, overseeing the contractor, Blue Ocean. And all these monies are being expended. Well, they're dumping money. We heard on the national housing, they were burning money aimlessly. It seems as if they're dumping money aimlessly in the Parham Harbor, and still nothing. We heard of in the throne speech, the Governor General, His Excellency, mentioned of landing of a new cable, still on the APUA Telecoms, the Telecoms business unit, to lower the cost of internet. Yeah. Oh, that is welcome. That will be a good thing. But who is landing the cable, and give us a timeline and the costs? To give a broad, general, sweeping, sweet-sounding pie in the sky, in the pipeline, to be landed. We have heard that, as is the case, as we demonstrated here, with the repiping, the redistribution system of water throughout the island in excess of 7 years. Is this another 7 year? We have to wait another 7 years to realize a cheaper internet, delivery of internet services to every homeowner, every person with a device in Antigua and Barbuda. As it relates to APUA, we still are not experiencing any relief. Nothing was mentioned as to the dreadful fuel variation, the high fuel variation charges that are imposed upon us, and still nothing. So we have no hope, there's no relief, there's no comfort, There's nothing, and we're looking forward to the budget debate. And hopefully this time around, the Minister of APUA will actually rise to his feet and explain to the nation what is happening in the Ministry of Public Utilities Authority. As we move to the Ministry of Works, managing the time wisely, a lot of areas to cover. The Ministry of Works, and hearing our woes. The Ministry of Works. Ministry of Works unauthorized recurrent capital expenditure as reported by the Budget Office to the Budget Director of Audit between 2017 to 2019. In 2017, no information was submitted as per request by the Director of Audit. In 2018, there was an unauthorized expenditure of $50,018,515. So it never went to Parliament. No special vouchers, no special warrants. Nothing was presented. There was just an unauthorized expenditure by the Ministry of Works. And we know who the minister is. In 2019, the unauthorized expenditure in the Ministry of Works amounted to, bear with me, according to the Director of Audit, it amounted to $15 million. Well, no, that is relating to vehicles. We're not getting to vehicles yet. We're not getting to vehicles yet. So, while we're on that, until we get to our paper, because we had to rush in bringing you the information. The expenditure, as it relates to the Ministry of Works, $50,018,515. In 2019, $114,188,212 unauthorized expenditure in 2019. So that is, it never went to Parliament. There was no approval. There was no special warrant. And in this instance, the unauthorized expenditure for the Ministry of Works exceeded the entire budget of the Ministry of Health. So there's no wonder we have rusted cribs in the children's ward at Mount, what's it called? Celeste Bird, Mount St. John? Yes, we can't provide proper health care. Rusted cribs as it relates to public works. But more importantly, as it relates to the Ministry of Works, still with this vehicle purchase. In 2021, how are we doing with time? The Director of Audit reported an unauthorized expenditure totaling $80,321,194 by the Ministry of Works. Let's say that again. $80,321,194 in the Ministry of Works. And what was instructed under the code 401, when you come down under 401, vehicle purchase, my colleague, the MP for St. Philip South mentioned $9.5 million. $9.5 million. Ministry of Works, unauthorized purchase of vehicles, as reported by the Director of Audit from 2017 to 2021. The government did not comply with the requests by the Director of Audit in 2017, so we have no figures there. In 2018, they spent $3 million unauthorized expenditure on vehicles alone, the Ministry of Works. In 2019, $15 million unauthorized expenditure in the Ministry of Works on vehicles alone. In 2020, $9,932,146 unauthorized expenditure on vehicles alone. And in 2021, $9,500,000 as mentioned. So between the period 2017 to 2021, $37,432,146 on vehicle alone, purchase alone. Now, I know time is against me, but I crave your indulgence because we have to speak of other areas in the Ministry of Works as it relates to the car park. And in 2024, in the estimates, page 286 in the budget estimates of Antigua and Barbuda, the Sunshine Car Park, it says project costs $27,466,277.93, and the work is ongoing. Now, I drove by on Independence Avenue this afternoon, and I didn't see any work going on there. Other than grass cutting, can you tell me what is happening here? The last thing I saw a prominent supporter of the Minister of Works in Rural East. He has a grass cutting operation, and I saw his people doing the cutting. So you tell me, Jowawa, is the contract for grass cutting the value of $27,466,277.93 in grass cutting, because there's no other work? No other work. We have a situation where the ABS, as it relates to design and control plans for 2004, the ABS, they mentioned in the budget, the same page 286, ABS was supposed to be moved to the Caribbean cinemas. Has ABS moved to Caribbean cinemas? The last time I was in ABS was in January of this year, during the by-election. And that was the first time any member for the opposition went on national television. And the place is deplorable, run down, decrepit, and smelly. I'll be nice. And there is no movement. Bearing in mind, ABS was supposed to be on the top floor of that same car park. And they said that work is ongoing. If you go there tonight or tomorrow in the morning, you'll see no work ongoing. They're talking about buildings still. Just give me a minute. I beg your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. The staff facility at Tomlinson, still nothing. You're talking about the Plant Protection Unit office, infested with mold on Upper Corn Alley. There were plans to build a new Plant Protection office, nothing. There are plans to build a new Flying Fines Institute, still nothing. There are plans to build or conduct the repairs of the Clearview. My good brother spoke of someone who was at the side of the road. Still nothing. And it goes on and on and on. And I know my time is up, but hardly anything was mentioned of aviation other to speak of LEAT whenever APs comes online. Now that's a vexing issue, because the last thing I read online that there was a seizure of AP's aircraft in Africa. They didn't pay the wet lease, and the people came and collected the aircraft. So I don't know when that is coming. There's no mention of additional seats, flights coming out of our great tourism market in the United States and Canada, increased flights, nothing mentioned. And so we just have to look and take this with a grain of salt and await the details that is to come within the budget presentation and the budget debate. I thank you.
My party would like to thank Brother Wenner for his presentation, caretaker for St. Peter. We move swiftly on now to Brother Alistair Thomas, caretaker for St. John's City West.
Thank
He
you.
will be speaking on lands and housing. I apologize.
Thank you very much. Should I say Speaker of the House or Moderator? Let me acknowledge our wonderful audience, including our chairperson and our deputy, and let me acknowledge all the viewers, home and abroad, those in the diaspora, those who are online, and to my wonderful constituents, but I prefer to say member of my birth community, Villa and Point, but the citizens and residents. I could say in one word that what passed today was just more of the same, a routine of charade. But because I've been asked to look at the land issue, what I've heard the Governor General brushed at housing stocks. I am not going to allow the Governor General, who is given a script every year, so it's not him, but it's the Gaston Brown administration, in this exercise of deception. And I will not be legitimizing the exercise of deception. And if you permit me, with the portfolio I've been given, to look at the land and the housing, I think I'd want to begin by saying that Gaston Brown and his cabinet colleagues and his creative enrichers should be in prison. And I give the evidence. I think the facts are irrefutable that Gaston Brown is the biggest betrayer of our descendants, especially those who are the descendants of the enslaved. And let me give the evidence. I think it's unpardonable and unforgivable. In April 2025, Gaston Brown said to this nation, and I quote him, "There are people still operating in a mindset from 10 years ago. They believe they can get a piece of land in McKinnon's for $5 a square foot. Those days are gone. Those lands already privately owned." That was vexing, but he didn't stop there. He said private sector lands are often in better locations. It may seem more expensive, but in reality, it is good value for money. This is the Prime Minister speaking about the lands of Antigua and Barbuda. And let me say this in an introduction about the lands. For me, land, all respect to my attorney colleagues, is not real estate for me, and certainly not for the party. Land is blood. It's our ancestral sacrifice, brutality, barbarism, death, murder, land in Antigua and Barbuda. That's what it represents. It's not, oh, a piece of real estate. That's 400 years of our grandparents. So for me, as I treat with this land and this frivolousness that Gaston Brown is saying to the citizens after we would have spent over $6 million to acquire the colonial lands from the syndicate and the factory. We bought it when the colonial government should have given it back as part of their first act of reparatory justice, but we bought it. No other government in Caribbean had bought 80% of the land. So Gaston Brown said in April 2025 that there's no land. Again, for me, that's a criminal act. But here's Gaston Brown signing on to a document in 2015. First, the term will be 198 years. You never heard that yet. That's almost the whole period of our enslavement. When a government can sign away land that it not only own, but in this instance, this is our sister and brothers from Barbuda, lands that he has stolen from them against their communal rights and reparational rights. He amends the law in Barbuda with lands, we're speaking of lands, showing you the history of Gaston Brown rape, robbery, and thieving of the land from the people. Barbudans for centuries had access to their lands by communal rights. I will add ancestral inheritance that even precedes that. Because for me, the lands on which my ancestors were enslaved should have been the first act by the colonial government of reparation, of giving that back, starting with that. But what he did with his plan to disenfranchise, to take away the lands, notwithstanding what the Governor General grandstanding about land stock, let's deal with the facts. He goes to Parliament and passes an act to take away, to end the land ownership, which is one of the most unique and treasured land ownership policy in the history of land. In fact, nearly every conflict in the world is about land from the biblical times. Barbudans had a unique land tenure, of which the unborn had rights to land. What more remarkable land system? But then he goes and passes a legislation, a bill, that says all persons residing on the island of Barbuda shall be and are hereby declared to be tenants of the crown. You never heard anything like that. That the citizens on the land that they died for, that in one fell swoop, using the authoritarianism of Parliament, the dictatorship of Parliament, to pass a bill to take away the lands, to do what? That in January 2015, to justify this, the land lease will comprise approximately 555 acres, comprising the existing, or the then K Club, which is approximately 251 acres. Now that 251 acres is more than all the lands that all Barbudans own. The requested land approximately 137 acres. So they requested in addition to the 251, that's Paradise Found. And then they needed a buffer zone. We're talking about lands. I'm sure you know the frivolousness. And when I say Gaston Brown should be charged for criminality and for betrayal of the people, I'm giving the evidence. So he first passed the legislation to disenfranchise, to take away the lands from Barbudan that they owned. Then he then signs an agreement for 198 years. No citizen, no resident, no ancestral child ever was given anything near to this. That include a buffer zone, meaning the area to which Barbudans can have the right to go close to the property. So they have 555 acres, then they have 137, then the buffer zone, not 2 acres, not 3 acres, 167. So in total, having passed the legislation, used Parliament to take away the rights of lands, the bloodlands that should be for generation, development, investment, housing, he gives away 655 acres of land. But yet, to one so-called investor, creative enricher, but then he says to the Antiguan citizens and residents and the ancestral children that they are still operating in a mindset from 10 years ago. They believe they can get a piece of land for $5 per square foot. This 655 is less than $1 a square foot. So I want to place in context the housing. I heard my brother made reference to the housing. And if I can add to land, the criminality of land. Gaston Brown preside over the land policy, of which inclusive in the land policy is sea and air. Am I right? Sea, land, and air. Those are the 3 factors, which include lands. He signs another agreement in relation to land, but this time with the sea. Now let me read what he signed, what he gave away. The area of sea that Antigua and Barbuda people should own should be about 200 nautical miles around the entire area of Antigua. Gaston Brown again signed in 2015, signed by him. Take up our sea, one of the most lucrative, profitable, almost indefinite potential of wealth. Mineral resources are there. Beside the marine resources, we don't know what kind of oil might be there, because it's easy nowadays to find those things. You don't have to do digging. You can use a LIDAR technology. But then he goes, taking not an area. Not only they destroy the area from the marine context. And let me read exactly what he signed. YIDA will establish and invest a seafood harvesting company within the zone and create significant employment opportunities. Now, we didn't need to give any Chinese company the seafood harvesting. Train more Antiguans and Barbudans and purchase the trawlers, and we can operate them. So we make super profit. Seafood harvesting, our people have been in the seafood business, and to raise it to another level, that's the obligation of government. But he goes beyond that. That he says 10% of the profit of the seafood harvesting, having given it away, they must give us 10%. The company shall set up an ocean monitoring team to supervise the seas now, not just the area in North Sound. Agreement that Gaston Brown signed with our seas, our infinite resource and potential of wealth. The company, NIEDA, shall set up an ocean monitoring team. We have the, what do you call it, Coast Guard. But he signs away the sea to prevent non-Antiguan and Barbudan boats. But he goes on to say, from seafood harvesting and to regulate in general within the Antigua and Barbuda sea territories. And the sea territories are in fact 200 nautical miles. So what this proved, unequivocally, that Gaston Brown not only have divvied up and taken the rights of the lands, but the seas, he has signed it away. And I want to see an indication of sign. What we said, as far as the land policy was concerned, that the United Progressive Party said that we would embrace for residents as far as homes are concerned. And let me just say this about the homes quickly. My brother refer about giving credit for some housing stock. As far as I know, a minister of the government had said to the public, which is Western, that the housing stock that you're speaking about, that money has been burning, that millions of dollars have wasted, that could build 5 times the amount of homes. And not only that, in our going around with residents, the quality of construction, about 60% of it is poor. And we have not gotten an independent audit of those housing stock. So for me, to say about the housing stock, until we get a housing audit, independent audit, indicating the cost, and at the same time, we already have evidence that a minister in the government, accepts that the housing project is loaded with corruption and no account of it. So as far as the land sea is concerned, whatever the Governor General said this morning about lands, it is, for me, passive, because the facts are 80% of our lands have been given away in graft and in corruption.
I know that time is against most of us speakers. In my party, people come prepared to talk about the issues, and we don't have to abandon the policies here because we don't have enough of them. So my party would like to thank Brother Alistair Thomas, caretaker for St. John's City West, to speak on lands and housing. We move swiftly to Brother Emmanuel Peters, caretaker for St. John's Rural South, and he will be speaking in his time allotted to agriculture and fisheries.
Good night to everybody. Greetings to my constituents of St. John's Rural South, to everybody that is within the boundaries and the building of St. John's Rural South, welcome. To our viewers, welcome. My task tonight is to speak on agriculture. You know, as I listened to Troon's speech today, you know, it more come across as a wish list than a strategy to develop or move agriculture from 0 to even 40%. It is really, really, really sad with how we view agriculture in Antigua. And not to bring it home, or to bring a little bit more of context to how important agriculture is to us. In reality, if all the professions that we have are recognized in the world by name come together and we have an argument and we decide, look, we are going to withhold all our resources, all our profession, all our knowledge, and we're going to have a standoff for 2 weeks, and then we're going to come back in 2 weeks' time to revisit the conversation in the middle. After 2 weeks, and farmers walk away with everything that comes or identified as farming, how much other profession will be able to come back to that negotiation table after 2 weeks, which means not eating? Agriculture is very serious business. It is what we do, or that is how we function on a daily basis, and it needs to be protected on a much stronger and a more realistic table or view or platform. You know, it is very sad from the agricultural end and from the agricultural family, that how every budget, every throne speech that we are overlooked, we are undervalued, we are made a mock of, and just mere words on papers with no activity, meaningful activity, to really move the agricultural sector to something that we could rely on. At this present time, we don't know what is going to happen next within the boundaries of Venezuela, Trinidad, and in the Caribbean right here. If a war, God forbid it doesn't happen, breaks out in the Caribbean, we are going to be heavily affected with imports. What are we going to do, Antigua? Now, I'll be quoting several lines from the throne speech today that indicates what is the government potential where agriculture is concerned, and what is good, what is bad, what needs to change, and what doesn't make any sense or is just considered fluff. Now, the term farm to table, and right after he used the term farm to table, he went into that our hotel sector is thriving, our local farmers are being well taken care of, our market is flourishing, and it is extremely far from the truth. And let me borrow some words from the dear Honorable Sherfield Bowen. That is lie. Up to yesterday, farmers were calling around to get off their produce. CMC that belongs to the government, and the sole purpose of CMC was to protect our market, or to be our guaranteed market. And if CMC has pivoted from local produce to import, what to say about the private sector, that is the hotel? Who are they fooling? Again, that is lie. The government also spoke about a few years ago, was given a mandate by CARICOM that by 2025, that we should have seen a 25% reduction on import. Actually, we've seen an increase by 25+% of imports. What are we going to do? Look at the facts of what is happening right now in our waters. And it is very serious. We need to pay attention to it. Food security is real, but we cannot protect food without food. You must have food first to protect food, right? And this is a very serious situation. I remember the government speaking very glaringly that we have thousands of acres of land secured in Venezuela. And then since that conversation, cricket, to this point, now I'm hearing there are further negotiation with Guyana for more farmlands. Can somebody please explain to Emmanuel Peters what is the real true nature behind this land grab? And we are not seeing anything that has to do anything with the stakeholders in agriculture, which are the farmers. We have a new minister. And to this point, there haven't been one stakeholders meeting with all the persons, all the associations, all the groups, all the stakeholders that has to do with farming. We have been told what they are doing for us, and to this point, we have no real dialogue with the leadership of agriculture. We are waiting. Now, further on in the throne speech, this is laughable. It is said that in 2025, they're giving duty-free trucks and tractors for lowering production costs. To my knowledge, experience, and on the books, it has been over 20 years agricultural equipment has been duty-free on the books. It is not Emmanuel truth. It is the truth. Go research it. So when they're saying that they're giving us duty-free in 2025 for trucks and equipment, it is nothing new, and it is just fluff. I'll tell you what has been happening, why they may even have this conversation. Many of our farmers, in bringing in equipment now, they have creatively found ways to let us know that it is on the government earnest. It is what they decide to do with us. I've had a farmer that had his truck, his delivery van to be exact, at the port for the last 9 months. Because then based upon his calculation of what he has, it was supposed to be duty-free, and he had the rest of the money to clear it and pay the other taxes. And to his surprise, they were only giving him 40%, then they moved it to 50%, and he's still stuck at 50%. So in the farming world now, we're actually looking to put together to assist this farmer. We were hoping that with this Bronco scandal, as we went back to negotiate, that they would have pardoned us, but only to find out that they only honor Broncos and not farming bus and delivery vans. You know, it is a crisis here in Antigua. It is not laughable. This is extremely serious in the world of farming. Now, we move to the abattoir. That is a very hot topic. I must say, since our last town hall about 4 weeks ago, going on to 5 weeks, the very next week, as we spoke about the abattoir and the dilapidated state, work was started. To this point, I must say, the two refrigeration are now up and running at about 40%. It is much better than years gone or years before. We've heard this conversation repeatedly. So right, my brother. We've heard this conversation over and over for a number of years, maybe for the last 10 years, of we're going to, every year, there's going to be a new abattoir, there's going to be a new slaughter facility. Well, farmers can't slaughter promises. We're tired of the promises. The abattoir is mandated, it is necessary, and it is our livelihood we're talking about. This is the facts of what is happening on a daily basis here in Antigua. I'll tell you more. And I want everybody to pass and check what I'm about to say. When you pass the new cemetery, the Tranquility Park and Factory Road, there is a beautiful big backup generator at our cemetery. And the meat market, where our meats are being sold, is in dire strait of our backup generator. So when current is off, it is not ordinary for us as farmers, especially our butchers. They have to be running helter-skelter all around Antigua to freeze their meat. And when you hear you move the temperature of the meat from about 40 degrees to freezing and then have to run it down to then, we're running in the area of being unhealthy, running risk of having bacteria and a number of other things that follow meat. It is very deadly. It is very unkind to us in the farming industry. It needs to stop. If a backup generator can be at the cemetery, I can't figure out why. But if that generator could be lent, or some of that money that has been wasted from our treasury being put into use at our meat market, we will deeply appreciate it. The butchers down there, the persons that have the stores down there, they pay for their areas. They deserve better. These are the things that are happening. You know, there's not much else that he spoke about in agriculture, which is expected, because in every year, it's more of the same. It is more of the wish list, or let's just change the date. It's 2024, let's move it to 2025, and they come up with the same thing. It's about time for it to stop. And unless we're not being forced into this country, or overall we give the United Progressive Party the opportunity to develop agriculture, because then one of the things more than anything that I was looking for and hoping for to see in that throne speech is an incubator program that really resurrects from our primary school to our secondary school and then to our adults. There is no feeder system that lends itself to continuity in the farming industry. I have taken the responsibility in my constituency of St. John's Wool South, and if I haven't restarted, I am starting agriculture from all the government public school, from the primary to the secondary school, and I will not stop until people realize that agriculture is what we should call king in this country. As I close, I would like to leave you with one line. Remember this. Remember, if you don't remember anything else Emmanuel Peters said, behind every meal is a farmer. Good night.
Thank you, Brother Emmanuel Peters. My party would like to appreciate your words and analysis, and we will move right on to the topic of education with Brother Ashworth Azil. He is the caretaker for St. John's Rural East.
Thank you very much, Chair, and to my colleagues who presented before. I want to join in associating myself with the sentiment that the throne speech today appeared a little vacuous and perhaps a little repetitive. And it is no criticism of our Governor General, but we understand how that document is generated. In fact, when we sit to listen to a throne speech, we expect to be inspired. We expect to leave that sitting with great hope and anticipation of great things to come. I cannot say that the content of the speech today left me inspired, gave me any real sense of hope that we will be carving a different type of reality for our people than we have experienced to date. And so I've been asked to speak on the issue of education, and you would note that education was merely a passing sentence or two in today's throne speech. And I happened to take a look back at the 2025 throne speech and its mention of the government's education plans and so forth. And so I just wanted to do a quick comparison in terms of the details. But if I could just provide this general sense of what I thought. So the 2026 throne speech represented a modest evolution. I call it modest, rather than something that was really revolutionary in its approach when you consider what 2025 offered. While both speeches emphasize infrastructural development and access to education, the 2026 address introduced some added details regarding technological integration and things like tertiary education, consolidation of those tertiary institutions or post-secondary institutions, while also, I thought, reflecting some priorities around artificial intelligence. And those are things that I was merely able to glean from that without it being explicitly stated like that. I think, however, both speeches, both 2025 and 2026, which are the most recent for us, and they will certainly stand out in our minds for one reason or another, they share some similar weaknesses, yes, as it relates to, one, our nation's commitment to technical, vocational, and education and training, a movement to develop and introduce a competency-based system, the implementation of a certification regime that will incorporate things such as national vocation qualification, as well as moving to the implementation of curriculum vocational qualifications. It also mentioned precious little. In fact, it mentioned nothing at all of the need to look to expanding our lifelong learning programs across Antigua and Barbuda, particularly as we look to take education out of the non-formal, out of the formal realm into the non-formal to address the dying need of individuals who might not have been as fortunate to complete their required schooling, or those who might have completed and wish to retool, re-educate themselves and repurpose their knowledge so that they can transition into something else. There was also nothing said of the revision of a national curriculum. I expected to hear some thrust, because again, I'm assuming here that the contents of the throne speech, as we will see with the budget as well, comes from the various ministries' business plans. And so I would imagine that the Ministry of Education would be looking at things such as curriculum revision. We have been talking about this for a number of years, and we seem to be in a very static space where our curriculum is concerned. And one has always got to ask the question as to whether or not whether our education system is actually meeting the demands of our people, whether or not our curriculum or curricula, as we refer to many other subject area, whether it is actually addressing national development needs. And so we heard nothing of curriculum revision updates. We also heard nothing of our national qualification framework. More and more, there is a need for us to examine the value that persons who are engaged in skills bring vis-a-vis those who are engaged in academics.
So, for example, should my brother Sherfield seek a qualification, perhaps he may go to Trinidad, where they are issuing CVQs at the moment, and he may have a level 4 CVQ. How does that compare to someone who may have a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, those who are focused on academia, yes? So we've not heard anything about the move towards establishing that national qualification framework so that our citizens could understand clearly where they stand in the pecking order and in the whole context of our national development. I also sat with great expectation that we would have heard some mention of an education sector plan that perhaps will span 10 to 15 years, that will inform again the direction in which we're going, because we believe that national development must be driven by data, and all of our social services, all of our human services must be directed towards the achievement of our national development goals. And so too is education. The same is true for education. And so if education is not following our desires or our goals for national development, then we are in some serious challenges there. Okay, we're in some serious pickle. So those are the things that I was really looking for today, and I did not get them from our throne speech. And so I would hope that in the presentation of the budget, we will see some additional details being provided to the citizens to give a greater sense of hope that we are in fact moving in the right direction. When you look at both speeches, 2025 and 2026, you saw in 2025, for example, there was a general commitment to school infrastructural improvement, emphasis on addressing deteriorating school facilities. Although they were not very specific in mentioning some of the schools that will be taken care of in those repair plans. We know, for example, that the Clare Hall Secondary School, the Others Comprehensive School, and I believe the Antigua Grammar School received some nominal upgrades. And so we see where that is happening. This year, the throne speech, seemed to focus on the Five Islands campus and the expansion of the student facilities at the Five Islands campus, supported by a loan from the I think it is the Saudi fund. We also saw some commitment to building, because clearly with the expansion of the student facilities, it means that the Five Islands Primary School, as we've heard, will have to be relocated. And we heard that there's been a commitment to actually rebuild that school, and that work either have started or should start soon. And I would want to commend them for doing that. And I would only hope that this new facility will reflect a modern school plant that could cater effectively to the needs of our teachers and our students. When we look at some of the gaps, here are some of the gaps that I observed and I'm concerned about. I would expect that a throne speech will give some indication of government policy in relation to teacher quality and teacher welfare. There was none of that. It totally ignored the issues of teacher salary and working conditions. We have seen recent industrial actions from teachers brought on by delayed or long outstanding back pay and salary increases and reclassification or promotions, as some would have it. There was also no emphasis at all or no mention at all of efforts to retrain and continue the training of teachers. In Antigua and Barbuda, the last bit of statistics we had showed that there was about a 48%, at least 48% of our primary school teachers were trained, compared to like 50% of our secondary school teachers in the public system. And so clearly there is a need to fashion a new policy to expedite the training of our teachers who are currently in the system, and we did not hear any of that. Then we also did not hear very much about the quality outputs. I would have loved to hear some mention of a policy directed towards addressing issues such as our faltering literacy rates and poor examination performance, particularly in the area of mathematics. This has to be a matter of national concern, and I would expect that there would be some policy being directed towards the resolution of those things. And then early childhood education is another critical area that we did not hear about, and I would certainly hope that the Minister of Education does justice to this particular sector in our education system. There was limited detail on primary, pre-primary education expansion. There was no mention at all of reviewing our early intervention programs to increase our student chances of success. Our student well-being is also something that I expected to hear being addressed through the throne speech. Clearly, with the increasing use and abuse of marijuana by our minors, I was hoping that there would be some emphasis on meaningful intervention programs at the school level, and even broadening of available mental health support for both teachers and students. We did not hear any of that. I think those are critical areas that must be zoomed in on and given serious attention. Now, listen, we have got to begin to address the sort of decay that we've been seeing over the last several years, where our school-age children are engaging in a number of fights at the level of the school and also in the city. We have got to really tighten that so that we can have a better reflection of our students in that space, better reflection of discipline. And I think that this will require some robust interagency collaboration on an ongoing basis to ensure that we can treat with it. Again, our primary school education system is something that requires additional attention, and I would wish to certainly urge the government to develop that multi-year plan which will focus on upgrading all of our physical infrastructure, because they're all ailing at this point in time. Many of our children are operating in spaces that are woefully inadequate and are very uncomfortable for them to dwell in. We also see APCAS, and I'm winding down now, we also see the creation of APCAS, and it was mentioned in last year's budget, but it had its actual implementation this year, APCAS being the Antigua and Barbuda College of Applied Studies, where we've had the amalgamation of some of our post-secondary institutions. Interestingly, the Harrison Center Abyss has not been included in that amalgamation for the very reason that there are challenges with their programs, the quality of their programs, quality and capacity of their instructors, and I would certainly hope that every effort is made now to remediate that particular issue so that the Harrison Center can be brought into the fold of APCAS so that they can benefit from this new qualification. As I go, I would also hope that we will give particular attention to the eventual creation of a national certification for our secondary school leavers. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I certainly hope that, although it was not mentioned as part of the policy focus for the new year, that the Ministry of Education will give serious attention to finalizing and fully implementing a national certification for our secondary school leavers. So with that, thank you very much, and I trust that we'll have an opportunity to perhaps mention a few more things in the interaction.
Thank you, Brother Ashworth Azil. My party is caretaker for St. John's Rural East, and he was speaking on education. If you would allow me, it is my opportunity to speak. We want to, however, create some time to be able to have some rebuttal dialogue and additional information. And so I'm just going to share just a short analysis of what I heard and a few presentations. I would encourage individuals to join me tomorrow on Progressive Radio at 107.3 FM and on the Ignite Media platforms, where we can dig down a little deeper in some of the things that I have to share, just in the interest of time, so that we can give our other presenters an opportunity for them to expand and fill in the parts that they didn't get. Lord knows that 10 minutes is not enough time for our members to be able to share the plans that they have for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. But we certainly will have to do more of these type of sessions where we can interact. Also, for those listening on the live, you can present your questions. If you have comments, you can share those comments and we can explore them. Hopefully, we create a little bit of time for that to happen. The area that I was allocated to discuss was youth development and sports. And there was a total of maybe about 63 seconds in the presentation today by the Governor General, where any of those topics fit in. We know that in Antigua and Barbuda, we are plagued by the issue of youth delinquency. And the fact that that has not come to the table, the attention of the Governor General in this presentation is shocking to me. Also, Antigua has vast potential for sports development, and it is an area that I think we sleep on in Antigua and Barbuda. Apparently, the Minister of Education failed to include his notes for the Governor General in this throne speech, and that is appalling because we are certainly affecting the lives of, I think, young people and taking away from the opportunities that we have in Antigua and Barbuda for growth in sports. I would just proffer or propose to you that national youth development architecture is something that we have to go and sit down and work on. Because, you know, we say all the time, well, you know, the youth are the future and all kind of things that we have to say about the youth. The truth is, after we say those things, we do nothing. There is no policy that we have in Antigua and Barbuda relative to the development of youth. And so my presentation would suggest that a central institution be put in place solely to look at the issue of development of youth. And when we talk about the development of youth, we're not just talking about them maybe getting a little vocational training or a little opportunity to do things here. We're talking about a long-term strategy of 10 to 25 years where we will know what's going to happen when children are 0 now, what's going to happen to them in 25 years. So you need a full body to sit down and chart that course so that we can have some output. Data-driven programs, not just some fly-by-night something, the minister travels somewhere and a friend tell him something and he come back home and try to implement those kind of things for our children without any data that is behind them. Talent identification, not when the child reach 14. From they are 2 years old, we see them running around on the park bench. We say, that little boy there, he going to be fast. And therefore, we should put him in an accelerated program. In the volleyball program, we should be going into the primary school and looking to find children who could be tall or we anticipate could be good players and take them out there and put them in a training program. And if they look like they could be elite, then we fast track them to that program. We can't be sitting down waiting until children are 16 years old in sports while the rest of the world is out there looking at children when they're 5 years old. That is ignorance, and we see this government don't care about that kind of development there. And then there is the issue of cross-ministerial training. So sports comes under the portfolio of education or with education, but sports is affected by health. It is affected by tourism. It is affected by other ministerial portfolios. But this silo idea that we have as a government to Minister of Sports have this, so you can cross over here, is not going to work for the future. If we put together a system where there is a body responsible for sports, there is a body responsible for youth development that is inclusive of sport, then we can go ahead and plan out what it is that we can do, what policies can be put in place, which legislation needs to come to the table to facilitate those kind of outcomes. And then from there, we will be strategically place our young people in positions to guarantee them success. I'm going to stop there because, you know, I have about 40 minutes of presentation here. I'm going to allow for a deeper discussion of this tomorrow. I'm asking all of you watching now to tune in at 12:30 tomorrow, and all the members of Parliament as well as the caretakers here to tune in and give your points of view. So that we can have a discussion in the interest of time. Our next speaker was to be Sister Chair, D. Giselle Isaac. However, we are also going to forego that presentation so that you can have a fuller presentation to include Sister Barbara Coates and to include Sister Chair on the show tomorrow evening, round table on the Progressive 107.3 platform. Now, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, if you don't know where that dial is, you should find it soon. And online, it's on the Facebook platform at Progressive 107.3. Right now as you speak, just press another tab, go there, like that page, because a lot of content is going to be delivered there on the next round table, and so you can participate in that. I will now yield the rest of my time to Brother Jonathan Joseph, who is the senator and caretaker for the constituency of St. Mary's North, and he will be dedicating his time to the analysis and discussion of social transformation.
Thank you kindly, Brother Chair. Let me say good evening to all those who are listening on this social media platform, and of course to those who are listening in the wonderful constituency of St. Mary's North. Listening to the throne speech today, I must say that I was really, really disappointed in what came out. And basically we're here this evening, but there isn't anything for us to give an analysis on from what was said, because really and truly nothing was said today, right, of great substance. And as we look at social transformation, the lie and deception that we heard today, that our $60,000 per capita income, and Brother Sherfield dealt with that, which suggests to us that the minimum wage earnings of those who are working in Antigua and Barbuda is $5,000. I mean, and that's just a lie. But let me go to what was said. And in the presentation, it says here that my government and private contractors have built more than 1,000 units of housing since 2014. Now, if that is so, it is good, and we welcome it, if that is so. But what I know as a building technology teacher of some of those homeowners who would have reached out to me to look at the quality of the homes where walls are divorcing themselves from each other. They're falling apart, and serious electrical issues where they have to be rewired. I'm saying these homeowners, they are not getting value for money. And I am hoping because it went on to say that another 100 condos will be constructed, 50 in Bowlands and 50 in Barbuda. But I know what kind of people Barbudans are. But I must say that we in the South, we know quality, and we're not going to accept any substandard housing project coming to the South. And I would like to ask also, because the people in my community, in my constituency in Jennings, to be exact, were promised a housing project in the Hermitage area, and we're not hearing anything about that. And already I'm getting calls to find out what has become of that. So here we go. Now, we speak of the poor and the vulnerable ones amongst us. And let me say here that anybody in any administration that is going to hold such a portfolio dealing with the poor and the vulnerable and the indigent among us, it has to be somebody with a heart of love and compassion and who are driven to ensure that people's lives are being better. Even Jesus himself, recognizing when he's going back to heaven, he knew that he will be crucified. And he knew that the people wanted him to be the leader. Because look, he was feeding the hungry, he was healing the sick, he even raised the dead. And he knew they wanted him to be their leader because he was meeting the need. And he said, look, you're not going to always have me with you, but you're going to have the poor, you're going to have the widow, you're going to have the fatherless. And Jesus was speaking to governments, the government of the day, and he's still speaking to the government of today. And these individuals have to be taken into consideration. And that's what we did under the United Progressive Party. We ensure that we took care of everyone. And when Brother Sherfield spoke just now, I felt it on the inside. I felt it. And I am saying that all those people that we have, those homeless folks that we have around St. John's, who even as we speak are sleeping on the building, on a cardboard, covering themselves with a piece of cardboard box. What are the plans for these individuals? I'm suggesting, and I'm saying that under a United Progressive Party administration, when we are returned to office, that no longer will these individuals will be sleeping on the street. We must make provision for them. And in the same environment where they know that when the sun sets, that there's a safe place for them to go and sleep on clean sheets, a comfortable bed, where they are fed, a place that is well staffed, where the linens will be washed daily so when they return at night that they're taken care of. No longer can we allow this to go on in Antigua and Barbuda. Because in the presentation, only 2 paragraphs were mentioned on the social transformation. And mention was made of the Happy program. And I want to say here that there isn't anything happy about the Happy program. Because the Happy program is for a selected few, selected supporters. And I'm saying that this program ought to be dealt with and to deal with those who need it most. Now, let's look at what was not mentioned. Because under the United Progressive Party, we dealt with education for learning. Or nutrition for learning. And as Brother Franz mentioned, ministries connect with each other, or should. And so we did our analysis. We did our surveys. We did the research, and we recognize that if our students have proper nutrition, because many students were going to school without getting something to eat, and they were getting a balanced meal, they were getting fruits, they were getting their water, and this administration took away the fruits, took away the water, and let's not talk about the nutrition now. They were getting 2 uniforms. We dealt with our elderly as well. And let me say that it was the United Progressive Party that started the soup kitchen, recognizing that those who find themselves on the street, homeless, that they should be fed. We did that. We started that with NGOs, and we negotiated with the government of Trinidad and Tobago and got financing for that as well. And so when we travel, we don't come back empty-handed. And what we come back with is for the people. It is for the people. And we go on. The PDV cab. It was under the United Progressive Party. And if we are, as was mentioned in the throne speech today, the talk of zero hunger, then if that is the case, we must pay attention to agriculture. because we must be able to feed ourselves. And if we're talking about zero hunger, it simply means that social transformation ought to step up its game. Because those who find themselves in position where they're poor and vulnerable, the indigent, must be taken care of. And we speak of mental health as well. And we understand that a building was purchased in All Saints West, but we're hearing, based on the experts are saying, that that building is not fit for persons with mental health. And so there goes another problem. That's another problem. I'm seeing that my time is up, but we're going to have another time to come to engage more and to expand on the discussions at hand. And so I thank you kindly for the 10 minutes that was afforded me.
Yes, thank you, Brother Jonathan Joseph. My party would like to recognize your contributions to this analysis. And I want to just encourage viewers and listeners that the United Progressive Party has a radio station called Progressive Radio. You should listen to it. It can be found on Facebook at Progressive 107.3 FM. And daily programs are streamed. I already see the space for a lot of content based on the analysis of this non-throne speech that we saw here today. And so you are going to be hearing over the next few days a deeper dive into what the United Progressive Party will do for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. So please find that station, tune into it so that we can continue this dialogue and discussion as it relates to the benefit to Antiguans and Barbudans. We're going to move our conversation now to legal affairs, crime and violence, and police operations. And to do that, I'm going to invite Brother Wayne Marsh, caretaker for the St. Paul constituency, to make his contribution in this regard.
Good night, everybody. Let me just first say to those persons listening to me from the constituency of St. Paul's, a pleasant good evening to you. To those who are listening online, a pleasant good evening. And to those who mourn in the English Harbour, Cops Cross, and Falmouth area, I say condolences to you. There have been 3 recent deaths, and I really feel touched by them because they're persons who are very close to me. But nevertheless, life goes on, and we thank God for life. I wish to briefly speak about what I consider to be the greatest disrespect and embarrassment where it concerns legal affairs in Antigua and Barbuda, as stated or was not stated in the throne speech. I listened to the parts of the throne speech, and there are several things that stood out to me. One is that there was speech with regards to the need or the government's plans to have rehabilitation of prisoners. That's one that stood out to me. The government's plans to introduce legislation to curb concerning crime and related issues, and also the government plans to look at the magistracy where it concerns the family court. I note that these are things that we should be grateful for, but I notice some serious glaring absence and lack of foresight with respect to the government plans as announced by the Governor General in his deliverance of the throne speech. So I just want to look at that. Now, one of the things that we heard is that the government speaks about the World Justice Project and the ranking of Antigua and Barbuda, where it is number 2 within that ranking where the rule of law is concerned. And that ranking is relative to the CARICOM countries. That is something that we should congratulate the government for, albeit that they would have placed it in such a way, because when I went and looked at the World Justice Project, I recognized that there was absolutely no ranking with respect to the CARICOM per se, but more so with Latin America and the Caribbean. So what they did was to narrow it down to just a few countries to make it look as if we bump up the line. So that's a bit of trickery. We'd expect that, but unfortunate. What I did notice that came very strong is that what is the rule of law? The rule of law is a concept where everyone is subject to the law, where nobody is above the law, that persons must have access to justice, that persons must be able to know the law, and that the government must promote the law. And one of the things that we see in the World Justice Project is that they have rankings, and they look at the government's commitment to several areas. They look at the government's commitment to tackling corruption, etc. Now, it was so ironic that the government spoke about its high ranking with respect to other CARICOM countries, but it fails to recognize that the rule of law requires that justice actually be done. And in the heart of this presentation of the throne speech, we have what is before us is the greatest scandal in all of Antigua. And the persons who are directly at the helm of this scandal is the Prime Minister and his wife. The government has not said what they will do to tighten those loopholes with respect to corruption and tackling corruption. And we do not expect them to do that because we know what the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party government is all about. We also note that the government spoke about, the throne speech spoke about the building of a new family court. That is an excellent thing, because I really believe that the family court system in Antigua and Barbuda needs to be addressed. What is striking, however, is that this is nothing new. It has been said many, many times before. But while they say so, we also have to look at justice, the administration of justice on a whole in Antigua and Barbuda. We do know that the magistrates' court is where the bulk of the justice is meted out in the nation of Antigua. In any justice system, it is the magistracy where most persons have their encounter with the law. Now, we saw just recently that the magistrate building on High Street was rebuilt. Now, or refurbished, sorry, I should say. Now, with that refurbishing of the magistrate's building, we go in there now and you go to practice law. As a lawyer, you have a client who may have been arrested overnight. That client or that person who is in custody has absolutely nowhere to speak privately with the attorney. Now, the Attorney General has been a practicing lawyer for many years. One would expect that when he sits down and he smiles, they give him 15 minutes or a few seconds of fame, he should say to himself that, listen, I have failed because I have just presided over the refurbishment of a magistrate's court, and there's absolutely no way for lawyers to sit and speak with their client. They spoke of bringing in more family court judges, magistrates, and, well, they have one family court judge. I think we might probably need more, but nevertheless, they spoke about magistrates. What is troubling, and it is a very serious issue for me, is the lack of resources and staff at the magistrates' court. I will say this. A few days ago, I was in court, and I was representing a young man who was summoned to come to court. The summon was presumably, and I say presumably, signed by the magistrate in 2023, on the 27th day of March 2023, the incident having arisen sometime in January or February of 2023. And guess what? That person was summoned to come to court on the 6th day, Thursday the 6th of November 2025. Just think about it for a second. You have someone, and I have my questions about it because you know I don't trust the police. In fact, I don't even trust the system sometimes. You have someone who is alleged to have committed an offense on this in January 2023. They are being summoned to come to court in 2025, 2 years later. Now, 3 years, yeah, nearly 3 years later. So what I'm suggesting is that either there's some gymnastics happening down there, or there is some serious lack of investment into the magistrate's court. Now, Brother Sherfield, he's always in court. My brother here is in court at all times. We are there. And it is laughable that with the Honorable Attorney General, I suppose he doesn't go to court at all for any purpose whatsoever. But if you go to the court now, there are tables, chairs, just thrown on the ground. They're broken. Furnitures that were just placed there less than a year ago, crushed in corners at the court. Nothing in the throne speech to address this lack of foresight with the government. Now, the issue with respect to rehabilitation of prisoners, that is a good thing. I welcome that. But how can you really rehabilitate a person who is being kept in a dump? Now, when I was a child, my mother is from Dominica, and I grew up, going to J.T. Ambrose School and so on. And one of the things that a lot of Antiguan children would do would say Dominican fig boat and all of this stuff. And in 2025, you're having a throne speech that you're speaking about rehabilitating prisoners, and you have failed to say anything whatsoever as it relates to the condition in which these prisoners are housed. Now, I practiced in Dominica for a short while. And you're in Dominica, you go to the prison, it's an air-conditioned room. As an attorney, you sit, you take up a phone, and the prisoner comes, he sits on the other side, and you have a conversation. You take your notes, and they go about their business. You go to His Majesty's prison. I noticed I said His Majesty's prison in Antigua and Barbuda, Coronation Road. First, there is a booth where security guards are sitting outside. I guess it's a show. You go in, you buy your ticket, and you go in. But nevertheless, there's this booth where they're there. You knock on this big gate, and then somebody opens and they pat you down. And then you walk in. You walk up to the I guess where the security sits, in a little building, in a little reception area. And you sign in, and guess where you sit and speak with your prisoner? Outside on the step. 2025, rehabilitation, 2025. Is this foresight? I suspect the government is not serious about addressing issues that it relates to children and ordinary people. Because if they were, they would have seen the need in their throne speech to say to the nation of Antigua and Barbuda that we take you seriously, and we're going to do something about the conditions under which you're being kept. Now, the other issue that bothers me is because I gave a constituent a ride just a few days ago, and it was a Rasta man. And the Rasta man said to me, "Brother man, I use my weed as a sacramental thing, but this legalization or decriminalization of marijuana is the worst thing that has ever happened to this country. Absolutely the worst. And as Brother Sherfield spoke about it, it is a mess that they've created. You go to the juvenile court and the juveniles are telling the magistrate, remember, I know where you live. And they would tell the magistrate, I rather go to the prison because I'll get my herb and my rum and up the prison. They don't want to go to the Dennis Bauer Center because Randy Christopher and the management down there are doing a very good job. But this is a lack of foresight that we have. Anything to get a vote, anything to get a vote. Destroy the youths all in the name of being elected. It must stop. I'm saying that if we are serious as a nation, if we are serious as a government, if we're going to present a throne speech, we must recognize that we are dealing with the life of a nation and act in such a way that shows the nation that you really and truly care about the people. Now, I think my time is about ended.
It is.
And and I just want to say I'm happy to have highlighted those things, but we must seriously think serious. We must think seriously as a nation and not just a political expediency. The throne speech was a disgrace, absolute disgrace. Thank you.
My party would like to thank Brother Wayne Marsh for his analysis and presentation. And you can listen to him on Progressive Radio 107.3 in the coming days as he gives more detail and his proposal as to how it is we can change some of these difficult situations that we face in Antigua and Barbuda. Our final presenter this evening is Brother Shaku Simister, attorney for many years, and he is also going to have some continuing analysis and discourse relative to legal affairs, crime and violence, and police operations in Antigua and Barbuda.
Good night. I'm going to start by realizing that there are 7 men here who are shouting out their constituency. So only 7 of the 16 got shouted out. So I am shouting out the entire country. That's my constituency. The only authentic thing I saw today at the throne speech was the colonial regalia of the Governor General. Nothing else. He had a lot of conclusions based on no premises. It was very empty. But what I would want to do is just supplement some of the things that Brother Marsh has pointed out, particularly with the Magistrates Court. He started by telling you that crime is down 10%. But what crimes? And the important thing is, if crime is down 10%, does it make the family feel safer? Is it in robberies? Or is it in petty theft? Or is it in burglaries? They don't tell us this. They just conclude. But when we look every day and see that the Magistrates Court, every day they're bringing in new prisoners who have been charged, we have to wonder where the statistics come from. But this is the way they behave. They come with broad conclusions, no substance. And that's what the throne speech, in my mind, dealing with legal matters, etc. Brother Marshall talked about the Magistrates Court, and there's no place for lawyers to speak to their clients. More serious than that is this refurbished Magistrates Court have no access for persons who are differently abled. And that is a denial of access to justice. There are 2 floors. There are 3 courtrooms on the top floor and 1 courtroom at the bottom. But there are steps every place. So one with a wheelchair can never get access to justice in a court where Brother Marshall pointed out that all criminal matters start there and civil matters under $25,000 goes there. But there is no mindset with the Labour Party government, with their mouthpiece, the Governor General, in his throne speech, that looks at access to justice and the realization that our Constitution provides for a fair trial within a reasonable time. And I want to look particularly at Barbuda, because Barbuda Court meets, if there's no holiday, 16 days a year. And you may say, they go every 3 months for 4 days. If a holiday falls within that week, it's 3 days. So what happens in Barbuda, for the most part, you have what we call a summary matter, a matter that should be finished in the shortest of period, because after 6 months you cannot charge a person with a summary matter, and you will take 1.5 years to get a matter fixed in Barbuda. So what has been happening, attorneys are not going over there anymore. If I know Boyan is going over there and I have a matter, I'm calling him to hold. If Marsh has something over there, but what in fact, it undermines law and order in Barbuda, and it prevents the administration of justice within a reasonable time. Typically, you have a defendant who is charged in January. First appearance, he pleads not guilty, he asks for disclosure, you're not coming back until 3 months later. 3 months later, the prosecution is on vacation, so you come back 3 months later. 3 months later, something else happened. And it typically takes a year to a year and a half for a simple matter to be completed because of this 4 days every 3 months to go to Barbuda to deal with cases. Brother Marsh, I'm a little better off than you when we go to the prison, because you sit on a step and I get a seat in a burnout building. Or if I protest about the burnout building, I get a seat in the kitchen where you have to stop talking when someone comes in and then talk again. Brother Moyne and I had that experience recently. The whole question of justice has never been taken seriously by the Antigua Labour Party. You may recall that in his first term as Attorney General, prior to being returned in 2014, the Attorney General said that the police was never a priority. How can you have a person responsible for the police telling you that the police is not a priority? Nothing has been said in the throne speech about holding police responsible for killing our youth, for killing our fathers. Nothing at all, because it's just crime is down, the police do wonderful work. We know, because we're around the police all the time, they need training, they need equipment. A lady told me that she called a station to make a report and ask the police to come, and the police said they have no vehicles. So she said she called the commissioner, because a commissioner said, if you call and they tell you no vehicle, call. And she called and she was told, well, it wasn't this commissioner, it was the other commissioner. So this commissioner never said that. And she said they never came. They also talk about community policing. There's not going to be any effective community policing in Antigua and Barbuda if the behavior of the police when they are called to an incident doesn't change. A man and woman have an argument, and the woman or the man call the police, SSU come, heavily armed, to deal with what they don't know. It's not they get a call that there is potential violence. And what happens a lot is friends in the police force calling their friends to deal with matter. Justice is in a mess in Antigua and Barbuda, and the Labour Party is unable to deal with it because it is a criminal organization. It's as simple as that. As someone pointed out, there is nothing said in the throne speech today that recognizes that there is a problem in our civil service with how purchases are made. We have recognized the problem and we will put systems in place to address it. You don't have to believe them, but at least someone came with the idea. But that doesn't happen. Our throne speech today seemingly was short to me, and it sounds very, very familiar, right? Very, very familiar. You know, some time ago, they told us that we were going to have a forensic lab. Yes. So Jackie was actually counting the days in the mornings. Now we're hearing it will come on board by the end of 2026. Do you remember they told us they got equipment for breathalyzers, and they actually went to Parliament and amended the law to deal with it? Never went into effect. You know how many persons have talked of having a small accident and the police say, look, that person is wrong. And when they see the report, it's a different thing, right? Or at least one of the cases I just had, the virtual complainant was telling the defendant, my client, we can sort it out because I know they're going to carry me to court. But they carry the defendant to court instead, right? And there is concern about the integrity of elements in the police force. There are a great number of good, hard-working, honest police officers, right? The one of the officers involved in the killing of Khalil Simon was involved in a shooting a few weeks earlier of a deputy commissioner's son. He shot him in his bottom. Do you understand? And there is no addressing of these matters. And if people are of the view that law is enforced now and then, or for some persons, nothing is going to change. The United Progressive Party will approach this whole thing differently. We will change the relationship between the community and the police by establishing a complaint review board consisting of retired police officers and citizens, so that citizens' complaint can be treated fairly and objectively, and that we are satisfied will change the relationship between the police and the community. Thank you.
I certainly would like to thank Brother Chaku Simister for making his analysis and presentation. From the many speakers that are here tonight, it is evident that there is more information, more analysis, and more discussion that could happen. Our time right now is almost expired, and so I see that we have approximately 8 minutes left, and there are 8 presenters who are here. I'm going to give each one 1 minute to make a summary thought, and please keep it to 1 minute so that we can honor the time constraints given to our viewers. We'll start at my far right with Brother Wenner. I'm not going to count those 4 seconds.
Summary statements.
Yes.
I just want to bring to the attention some items that I didn't get to touch on. Of course, Brother Chaku mentioned the cybercrime lab. The playing field in Boland's still incomplete. The whole road situation. There was in the 2019 budget, the rehabilitation plan also, there is a rehabilitation plan that calls for the construction of a new headquarters for the Ministry of Works, totaling $15,150,000. $15 million for the construction, $150,000 for the plan. That was from since 2019 to present. Those monies, were they spent, were they expended? Was the plan actually put in place? Also, we know of the plans of the Gaston Brown regime to construct $100 million in roads to borrow a loan, and that is secured against the 40% increase in which we use the taxes of our licensing our vehicles. And so the question is, would the drains be also included in that whole thing? And also, would the synergy between Works and APUA, because the distribution system with the new water lines, would they be laid first before we install the roads?
Brother Wenner, thank you. Your time has expired. We move to Brother Azil.
And that's why you stay at the road table and take all the time you want, right? But listen, thank you very much, Brother Franz. Listen, we accept that education is a basic human right. But we have long moved past ensuring that every child has access to education. I think our focus has got to be on ensuring that every child has access to quality education, and there's a large difference in that. So we will continue to advocate for a system that takes into consideration the needs of all of our people. We'll continue to push for budget transparency in education spending. As a party, we will continue to champion the cause of teachers, ensuring that their welfare is given serious consideration as it adds to the element of quality education. We'll continue to advocate for measurable outcomes and public accountability with the development of a long-term education sector plan that will truly drive our national development process. And certainly we cannot help but underscore the need for us to guarantee that the foundation is well secured. And so we will emphasize quality early childhood education as a foundation for later success in life. So once again, thank you very much, and it was a wonderful pleasure engaging with the panel this evening and with our viewing audience as well.
Thank you, Brother Azil. Brother Sheffield Bowen.
Let me put on the record something that I observed in Parliament today. The new agricultural minister, the independent member, came in his red shirt. I just want that to be a note for the record. Also, in the other paper for the December 4th budget debate, I saw two resolutions, one to borrow $450 million US dollars and one to borrow $150 million US dollars, which is totaling about $600 million US dollars in new borrowing, which is about $1,725,000,000 EC dollars. Now, for that quantum of borrowing, I do not see any policy in the throne speech that would require that quantum of borrowing. So I'm kind of concerned about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Sheffield. Let's take the mic back to Brother Alistair Thomas.
I want to say this, that the Booby Alley project, housing project, which we led that campaign in '89, one, I want to assure the members of the Villa and Point community that each and every one of them who are entitled by the agreement that they have, that this is grant money and they are entitled to free residence because grant money is free money, and we will do everything to ensure, and certainly with the UPP government, each and every one of them who are entitled, who are living in Booby Alley, they will get their free accommodation, which they should have already had because it's 8 years since. I want to say overall that the land policy, one of the criminal acts in the land policy, and I cannot but speak about it, is the question of land and agriculture. We have one, or we had one, experimental station and research station, or area of Antigua and Barbuda, which was Donbass, which was vital for every other aspect or every other location of agriculture. Even Cardi used to do its research there. And the Labour Party government has completely destroyed and eradicated that Donbass area. So our agriculture food security, to me, was stabbed in the heart. With the United Progressive Party, we will ensure that land distribution and land policy would be something of a priority, and we are going to carry out a forensic audit of every square inch of land in this country.
Thank you, Brother Thomas. Brother Emmanuel Peters.
Good night once again. I would like to acknowledge the government of the Antigua Labour Party today for acknowledging the Honorable late Hilston Baptist, and every time they speak on egg security, egg is protected, it's a star in the Honorable Hilston Baptist crown, and it must be credited, and to know that up to this minute, the United Progressive Party policies and ministers still stand today, and all the policies reflect what United Progressive Party does and is. Also, I would like to let the nation know one farm is not our industry. It is a monopoly that is built to cripple the farming industry. And lastly, where is the egg box machine? It's been 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Emmanuel Peters. Brother Jonathan Joseph.
Yes, I just want to register my continued concern as it relates to the social program under this administration and what they came and met, started by the United Progressive Party, and the mockery that they would have made of the wonderful programs that we started, being a caring government. I want to say when it comes to social transformation, when we look at the least among us, that it takes a loving, caring government to ensure that these individuals are taken care of and they are protected under the law, that when you take something to Parliament, that it must be for the greater good of majority of the citizens of this country.
Thank you, Brother Joseph. Brother Simister?
Yes, thank you very much. I have to say this, move away from the legal, or else my daughter will kill me. It's about Barbuda. Brother Sheffield, she wants you to know that Barbuda want development, but not development that sideline the people, not development where PLH selling millions of homes and not a single cent goes to our treasury. She wants you to know that the airport is not something they're proud of because it destroys their environment. And that's why they had to go to court. He heard you.
And Brother Wayne March.
I just want to say in closing that the legal affairs and the management of crime and the nation's security is a very serious business, and it should be taken seriously. To this date, we do not have a coroner. There have been too many deaths unexplained in the prison and otherwise, and it is time that if this nation is serious about protecting its people, that not only in the throne speech, but in the budget we see meaningful programs and policies that aim to address these issues that confront our nation. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Brother March. Let me thank all those who have tuned in this evening. The next piece of this exercise is the budget of Antigua and Barbuda. This is just an overview of the government. Your job now as listeners to this presentation is to draft a spreadsheet with the large category of items that you have seen so that you can now compare the budget to come with the items, and in our next sitting next month for the analysis of the budget, we will now be able to look at current information versus what the government is planning to do. Let's continue, ladies and gentlemen, to interact, to educate ourselves, and to empower ourselves as residents and citizens of Antigua and Barbuda as we strive for a better nation for ourselves and our children unborn. Good night, and thank you for watching.